What we have here is a cat that was so bad it had to go into witness protection and change its name. Hey boys and girls, I'm Nick in the States, and this, my friends, is a Shengze Guitars, ba-bam, Hollowbody 553. Now, some of you may recognize the gloriousness that is the headstock of being the same as Bad Cat. And in fact, this is Bad Cat Instruments, the company from China, had to rename themselves Shengze Guitars because of Bad Cat amplification took some umbrage. They weren't really happy about somebody selling a guitar with that name. Right, wrong, or other, they're actually still kind of going back and forth on it. But this was the rebrand that they came out with so that they can keep doing business. Now, if you look at it, it looks very much like a certain famous guitar that people such as Chuck Berry, Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, Alex Lifeson, and many, many, many others have played. And that would be the Gibson 335, or the 345, or in fact, much more accurately, the Gibson ES-355, which is the top-of-the-line one, very similar to what B.B. King played, except B.B. King did away with the F-holes. Now, what makes this mirrored after a 355 is the fact that it's bound F-holes, multiply binding on the top and the back. It is an arch top, arch back, and the bound block inlaid neck and the bound headstock. So that the Gibson, the one that has inspired this ever so loosely, had those types of features. And this one is great, and it has a very cool shape, which I think is one of its strengths, is it just looks quite right. Multiply body, mahogany neck, rosewood fretboard, which is still shipping through customs due to some magic, and that magic being is customs is not actually enforcing the rosewood ban, and as we thought kind of early on or conjectured, basically it's large companies that are really forcing themselves to kind of comply to it. The little shops that are sending things around and whatnot are kind of running at certain risks, and that is a risk with this, but so far an acceptable risk for them. Now this has some import Grover tuners on it. I'll tell you, I've had previous Chinese guitars that had Grovers of questionable origin. These actually feel like proper Grovers. I don't really know how I could tell one way or the other, but they do feel like proper Grovers. Keep things in tune pretty well. Has a abalone inlaid cat and logo on the headstock, mother of toilet seat, block inlays down the neck, and a gold plating on the hardware. Very, very cool. 2-volume, 2-note, 3-way switch. Your standard kind of things. Now, some pluses as we've gotten to the details, as we took a look at things. Pluses with this is these are full-size pots. They work pretty well. Things get louder, get quieter, tones get adjusted. Definitely not the highest quality, meaning they're probably not worth writing home about or grabbing your friends that are all vintage Gibson R7 people, but they do the job quite well. They're full size, they're not the mini chiclet pots. And in fact, the 3-way switch is also a switchcraft style switch instead of like the lower cost box switches. That's pretty cool. The gold plating on the tailpiece and the bridge are pretty good, but as you see in a lot of inexpensive pickups, it isn't as vibrant on the pickup as it is on the tailpiece and stoptail. Not uncommon, especially in expensive pickups, and we'll get to why that may not be the biggest of deals in a bit. All in all, though, really quite cool. Now, the two things that came up when we did the unboxing video that people didn't like was, first of all, they thought the pickguard looked a little bit cheap. And I think once you took the shiny plastic covering off it, it doesn't look so cheap, it just kind of looks disappearing, like you don't notice it. And I talked with Shengze, who's a proprietor of Shengze Guitars, ironically, who knew? And they're actually changing the pickguard to be a multiply bound one that looks like this. Kind of cool. Now the next thing that people noticed was the kind of spaghetti mess of cables through the F-hole. And this was kind of a bummer. When I talked to Jason or Shengze about it, He specifically actually is going to work with the factory to not have it be so much, because you can see in the F-hole just a bunch of cables. It's just the reality. It's kind of tough on these to do it, but they could definitely do a better job. So many other manufacturers have found a way to do that. So they're going to work towards that. So those are two things that came up on the unboxing video. Now, for 100% transparency, Jason sent me this guitar, no charge, to do the unboxing video, this thing, and then to add it into the repertoire, because we're going to do a low-cost 335 comparison test at some point in the near future, like an Epiphone Dot Studio, this guy, and hopefully an HB35. So stay tuned for that. Moving on. Now, how about we play some of the clean tones? Now, this is a semi-hollow body guitar, so there is a block of mahogany that runs the full length of the body from the end of the neck all the way down to here, and the mahogany is about this wide. What that means is that unlike a full hollow body, it resists feedback pretty well. And I haven't personally tried it at super high volume, but at reasonably high volume in my house, enough to get yelled at by the wife and the kids and perhaps the neighbor, it held up quite well, so I was impressed with that. And it's actual mahogany-looking wood. Whether that's mahogany, whether that is one of the other cousin species of mahogany that the Asian factories often use, not sure. But it is better, though, than some of the 90s Gibson semi-hollow bodies, like the ES-155, that used like a balsa wood block, which didn't work as well, and it also didn't gumption up the tone very much. It made it kind of soggy, in my opinion. Anyway, that is all of that. Let's hear a little bit of clean tones played through Mesa Boogie Mark V on the clean channel with a dose of reverb, going through a 2-note Captor into Logic. Now, what I like about it is the action was a little high, and when I got it in, I brought it down to where I find it to be comfortable. Where I like it to be comfortable, I have a little bit of fret buzz as you get up on just basically the first two strings. There's probably a fret there that could use just ever a little bit of filing, which is not uncommon in guitars in this price range. Probably a good point to note. This guitar, I think, right now is about $250 shipped to the United States direct from China, which is a pretty good deal considering what shipping costs from China. I can tell you that this one took about 3 weeks to get to me, a little under 2.5, just under 3 weeks to get to me on the eastern coast of the United States, up outside of Boston. So, gives you an idea of how long shipping times can. And it came in one of those taped to the Dickens styrofoam box. The tone. So I played this, I A-B'd it with a few other guitars when I was at my house with it, and I'll tell you that the pickups don't suck. They're not the best pickups in the world, but they're not mismatched with the character of the guitar. There were a little like moderate, medium output, Alnico-y, warmer, smoother contoured pickups than say a ceramic, which would be a little bit harsher and want to be like high gain. They're not stellar, but I think in this price range of the guitar, it's very rare to find a stellar set of pickups in something like this. Which is why when I was saying about the gold plating maybe not being the best in the pickups, the best thing you could do with this guitar, if I could do anything, aside from just the ever so slightly leveling one fret up here, and it's just really just two strings on that fret are a little high on the bass side. If I could do anything, I'd put a set of Duncan Antiquities, something of that nature, maybe some Buddha pickups in it, gold plated, and replace these and maybe replace some of the wiring. I would also replace the knobs, which are just ever so slightly cloudy, I guess is how you would describe it. Once again, not bad, but I would probably put some just standard Gibson E-Speed knobs, that kind of stuff there. That's just me for what I would do. So another cool thing about a guitar like this is it'll chunk. And here's just doing a little bit of mildly driven tones, so you can see that it plays those rocky things. It'll get you almost to a Les Paul territory, but it's just a little bit, softer of a tone, not as full bore that maybe a Les Paul has, as you can hear now. Overall, I really enjoyed this guitar. Some of you may remember I had a blue one from Bad Cat. Similar style, had a quilt top on it, was gorgeous, had a bunch of issues out of the box. And I'm happy to say that this one didn't have any of those issues. The frets are pretty good. A little bit of dressing will get it, really where I want it. The fit and finish is actually pretty good. In this price range, it's great. You got a little bit of mild staining on the binding. Not that it's noticeable huge, just like a tint here and there. But overall, very good, especially in its price range, and it feels very durable. Neck shape is another thing. So let's talk about neck shape. It's not as big and beefy as a neck as the last one that I had, the blue one. This one is much more Epiphone Les Paul, I think is the best way, where the C doesn't fully wrap around across the top. It's not soft over the edge. It comes up just mainly to like a U kind of thing, and it's relatively thin down the neck. Not Ibanez Wizard, not super thin, but not beefy 50s Gibson style. It's definitely on the slimmer side of necks. Nothing wrong with that. Just want to detail it all out. Overall, though, I really like this guitar. I want to swap out the pickups. That's going to be the next thing to do because I think that'll really make it part of my very regular rotation of things that I play. I love the fact that they kept the cat. And I think that, a black 355 style or 553 style is really just a classy rig. Anyway, I've been Nick in the States. Yes, folks, I have issues. Take care.